Good morning, Mr. Pretorius. Good
Morning, Chair.
everybody. Are you ready?
Yes, the witness Stephen has been sworn in chambers and is ready to give evidence under an order of protected identity issued by yourself.
Yes. So I just want to,
Stephen, are you there?
the media is reminded,
I'm here, sir.
the media is reminded and the public are reminded that I issued an order in respect of this witness evidence aimed at protecting his identity. I will not repeat the order. Everybody knows the substance of the order. Okay. Good morning once again, Stephen.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Thank you once again for availing yourself to assist the Commission. We appreciate it very much.
It's a pleasure, Chairperson.
Yes, you have already taken the oath, so Mr. Pretorius can start.
Thank you, Chair. Stephen, do you have a bundle before you after the divider YY7? Bundle SSA-02?
Yes, Advocate, I have it.
Bundle SSA-2A, what appears on the face of it to be an affidavit attested to you by yourself. Do you have that?
Yes, I do.
All right. The affidavit appears at YY7, SSA page 302. Would you look at page 302, please? Is that your affidavit at the first page?
Yes, it is my affidavit, Advocate.
And if you go to page 314, whose signature is that at the top of the page?
It is my signature, Advocate.
Right. And as far as you are concerned, are the contents of this affidavit true and correct?
Yes, that is so.
Let's go to page 302, please. You state there in the introductory portion what your current position and current duties are. We needn't detail those at present. But you have a history of intelligence activities with the intelligence arm of the ANC Mkontwe Wesizwe, is that correct?
That is correct, Advocate.
Yes, and in 1995, is it correct that you were absorbed into the new intelligence structure of South Africa?
That is true.
And if we can go on to page 10, the Chair can read the background set out in the other paragraphs, but in paragraph 10, it says you were appointed as Acting Deputy Director General Domestic Intelligence. Is that correct? In 2015. Let me put it this way. The allegations in paragraph 10, are they correct? Can you hear me, Stephen? Stephen, can you unmute, please? In other words, switch your microphone on and leave it on.
I did.
Yes.
I did. Thank you.
All right. So if you would look at paragraph 10, it talks of an appointment in 2015. And are the details in paragraph 10 correct?
That's correct.
Right. Let's then go to the substance of your affidavit in paragraph 12. We know that in 2015, the State of Nation address was set to occur at 1900 on Thursday, the 12th of February 2015. Do you recall that?
I recall that, Advocate.
Right. And what notice did the SSA receive regarding the potential for disruption of that event?
What we received at the time was that one political party in Parliament made the former president to address the joint sitting of Parliament. Our task was to ensure that the President of the Republic is able to address the joint sitting of Parliament. That is what we knew at the time.
Were there concerns about the safety of the President?
Yes, there are concerns about the safety of the President.
Right. And in paragraph 18...
Because of the...
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I'm saying because of what was generally known in public, that certain political organizations in Parliament were not happy that the President was going to address the joint sitting.
Right. In paragraph 18, you set out the steps taken to deal with this threat. What were those steps? These are all matters of public knowledge now, I might add. But what were those steps? Paragraph 18.
The steps that we had to put in place as the national joints, because when we deal with events of such magnitude, it may not necessarily be the state of the nation, but even events such as elections, we work within the auspices of the national joints. So in terms of the decision that we took as a national joint, based on the threat assessment at the time, ordinarily, when there is a sitting of that nature, the SONA, there are role players. The military is part of the NAT joints, SSA is part of the NAT joints, and the lead department is SAPS, who then becomes the chair of the joints. SSA becomes the co-chair as well as the defense.
Right.
So
just for the record, before you go on,
nature,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just for clarity's sake, NAT joints, NATJOINTS, appears to be a joint committee representing various entities in which the SSA plays a leading role. Is that correct?
yes, but it's not SSA that plays a leading role. It's the SAPS that is the chair. The two departments, meaning SSA and the defense, are co-chairs of the National Joints Intelligence Structure.
All right.
In brief, NAT joints.
Yes. Okay.
So as a rule, when there is a sitting of Parliament, we normally ask our colleagues in the defense from the joint perspective that they must ensure that there is no-fly zone, the Parliament precinct becomes a no-fly zone. But below a certain radius, the military cannot enforce the flying of smaller devices such as drones. That's where the SSA then came in to deploy the device that we deployed, which eventually jammed the signals in Parliament.
So a jammer was deployed to prevent a drone from being operated at a low altitude at the State of Nation address. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. What do you say in paragraph 19 then?
This is correct. It's true that the jamming device was to be placed outside the chambers in a position where the former president was supposed to take the final salute before he enters the chamber. Then after that, the jammer was supposed to be removed from sight because that is the area which was identified for that purpose. But what then happened, a decision was changed without the knowledge of the Joint Chiefs by Mr. Thulanidlo. The jammer ended up being deployed inside the chamber in the gallery where visitors are allowed to access Parliament on that day. That is what happened.
What was the effect of putting the jammer inside Parliament?
The effect would have meant that cell phones were not going to be able to function on that day if that jamming device was placed inside the chamber. Because the jamming device is operating on a radio signal. So it interferes with other radio signals. And the cell phone works on the basis of that signal, the radio signals. So it confuses the cell phone device, the GSM system. And as a result of that, cell phones would not function. That was the effect of placing the jammer inside the chamber.
And would that have as a consequence that there could be no filming or sound recordings transmitted from the parliamentary chamber to the public as to what was happening within Parliament?
No, because the jamming device does not interfere with the terrestrial lines. The beaming of what is happening in Parliament is based on terrestrial lines. Yes. So there wouldn't have been any interference in terms of the jamming device and the beaming of the activities inside the chamber.
But, sorry, I didn't make it clear. It would prevent cell phone images being transmitted.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct. That is correct.
Did this event or series of events, particularly the use of the jamming device in Parliament to block cell phone transmissions, raise concern amongst the public, and particularly the South African National Editors Forum?
That is correct. Not only the SANEF, I think South Africans as a whole were not happy with what happened on that day.
What did SANEF do? You deal with that in paragraph 22.
SANEF is the organization that represents journalists. I think it represents editors. That's where they affiliate. I would like to think that it is the body that represents them in the affairs that may affect journalism or journalists, as it were.
Right. What did they do? Did they react to the series of events?
Yes, they did. They actually challenged this issue at court in Cape Town, meaning they challenged state security that we did something that was untoward and we did not have a mandate to place such a device in the chamber. So we're challenged. In other words, we are being sued.
In paragraph 21, you say that the basis of the South African National Editors Forum challenge was an assertion that the public had a right to know what was happening in Parliament, and the
that is correct.
Jamming device interfered with the exercise of that right. Another issue you say, is that correct?
That is correct.
You say in paragraph 21, another issue was that television viewers of the parliamentary broadcast were deprived of the right to see visuals of the EFF MPs being ejected from the chamber, as the camera remained focused on the Speaker of Parliament and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Right. What happened then consequent to the launching by SANEF of legal proceedings after the 12th of February 2015 in relation to yourself?
Minister,
Paragraph 23.
after that, there was an outcry after the jamming. Then Minister Matlobo instructed me to meet with him at his official residence in Tshwane. I did go to his house. I was in the company of my colleague who was assisting me in terms of moving me from point A to point B. We arrived at Minister Matlobo's residence. I entered the house alone. I found him inside the house, but at the gate, maybe let me first describe what the situation was like at the official residence of Mr. Matlobo. Every time I'm requested to or instructed to come to Mr. Matlobo's house, Minister Matlobo's house, his protectors would be outside the residence at the gate to usher me in, because inside the yard, there would have been police who are securing the official residence. I would not be made to sign any document in terms of indicating my presence in the official residence. I would walk straight into the house. As you get into the house, you would turn right. On the right side of the house, that's where the meeting that I had with Mr. Matlobo took place. It's a lounge. I think that lounge is basically meant for these meetings, because every time I go there, that will be the space we sit for discussions. That is what happened on that day when I was called after the jamming.
Where is
But
this
it must have
residence?
been a week.
I'm sorry.
The residence is in Pretoria,
Okay.
next to Waterproof.
Right. If you'd go on, please. What happened?
Then, as I entered the house, Mr. Matlobo said to me, "Hey, Budi is brother. I'll talk in Zulu, but I'll translate. Ngizokuhlanganisa nezigebengu zami," meaning he's going to connect me to his, to use a colloquial language, tsotsis. These tsotsis are judges. So I was anxious that, okay, for the first time, I would be able to talk to people of that caliber, judges. So after we had our own small talk, the two gentlemen were ushered into the house. There was a black guy and a white guy who looked a bit old. I think he must have been in his 50s, late 50s. And a black guy, shorter, I think not that very tall. He must be what, 1.65 in terms of height. So, and very dark, without spectacles. The white judge also did, or the person who was introduced as a judge, white judge, did not have spectacles, but the white guy was a bit nervous, whereas the black person who was introduced as Ngwenya, Mr. Ngwenya, I can't remember the white judge's name, or the person whom Matlobo said is a judge, the white one, as well as this guy, the black guy. The black guy I remembered because he said he's Ngwenya. What made me to remember the name even now is because when you look at this person who was introduced as Ngwenya, he does not look like a person who would have come from KwaZulu-Natal or Eastern Cape or Mpumalanga, because Nguni people would have certain features. As a South African, I would be able to distinguish that. But this person, Ngwenya, seemed to be a person who may have come from Bushbuck Ridge or Limpopo province. That is why I could remember the surname, but I was not convinced that this person is Ngwenya. It must have been a code name given to me by Minister Mashlobo. Then after
Sorry, before you
we
go
met
on,
these
Yeah, maybe before you ask the next question, Mr. Pretorius, let me ask this, Stephen. You gave a translation for Izgebengu Zami as my tsotsis. I think that translation is not necessarily inaccurate, but do you also agree that Izgebengu can be translated as criminals?
Yes, it can be that if you broaden the translation.
Yes. And maybe you might be able to say this, to say something about this. Would it be true that sometimes in the township, people use that term for people that they have some admiration for? They use it in a positive sense, even though it's a bad term, because if you are escaping, it means you are involved in crime. Is that your experience, or is that something you don't know?
For me, coming from the township as well, if I say this is Iskebengu Sami, it may mean it's my friend.
Yes.
And it may mean it's people that we do things together, and I'm comfortable with them.
Yeah, no, I think
that is what I would think.
I think you are right. Sometimes it's used in a positive sense by the person who is using the term, but its normal meaning is that of somebody involved in crime. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure whether you have that experience of understanding it in that way. Mr. Pretorius, you may proceed.
can you tell, Stephen, from the manner in which the term was used and the context within which it was used, what meaning the term had for Mr. Mishlobo?
I would like to believe that the term was used in the context of what these two gentlemen were going to do for us. Because Mr. Mashlobo said, we are in trouble, we would need to find a way to win this case against us on what transpired in Cape Town, as we are being challenged by SANEF.
All right, let's
So
go back
he then went on to say,
I'm sorry,
I missed that.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to take you back to paragraph 25.
Before you do that, Mr. Pretorius, I just want to go back to the term just so that I know whether Stephen understands it in the same way I understand it. Now, Stephen, you have said that you live in the township, or you have lived in the township. You know the use of the term inja in the township.
Yes, Chairperson.
Inja
it may carry the same meaning.
Yeah, inja is a dog, isn't it? And ordinarily, nobody would like to be called a dog, isn't it?
Yes.
But
yes,
in the township, can it be used in a certain positive way among certain people?
You can only use it to people that you are comfortable with.
Yes.
Because a dog can't be associated with the person.
And
so the context is correct.
Yes. And when it is used, the people who are referred to as my dog, Injayami, they would also not take offense, would they?
No, they wouldn't.
Yes.
They would not take offense.
Yes. Okay, all right. Continue, Mr. Pretorius.
Well, perhaps just finally for clarity, Stephen, in case it becomes a matter of dispute later, when referring to the two persons present in the manner he did, do you think Mr. Mishlobo was intending to insult them or address them in a friendly, collegial way?
I think it was more the collegial way than insulting them.
If I may
But
take you
my
back...
view was that the white judge, yeah,
I'm sorry.
yes.
If we could
I was
go...
saying the white judge did not seem to be comfortable. He was a bit jittery. Whereas the black person, Wenya, was more relaxed.
Let's go back to before the two men arrived in the lounge. When you arrived in the lounge, as I understand it, you were alone with Minister Mishlobo. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
If you go back to paragraph 25, because we've left out some of your evidence, did Minister Mishlobo explain to you what the purpose of your visit to him was?
On the phone, he did not. I only got to know when I was in the house.
What did he tell you?
That the purpose was to discuss what transpired in Parliament and to deal with the legal challenge, because we needed to get this thing managed through the help of lawyers. That is what I got to know when I was in the house. But when I was still on the road, I did not know why I was being called.
Right. In paragraph 26, you talk about your relationship with Minister Matlobo and what you knew of his activities. What did you know?
I enjoyed a very cordial relationship with Minister Mashlobo. One, because of the position that I occupied in my acting capacity. I was managing operational work of the agency, meaning collection work. I wouldn't want to go into details. And I would be requested from time to time to assist with operational work, especially when there were challenges in the country. What comes to mind is that during the elections, I think it was in 20 local government elections, there were problems in Tshwane. And then we were asked to prepare a presentation to brief Lituli House as to what was the problems. Were we going to have a safe or safer elections? So I would prepare such presentations together with our analysis at headquarters. Then he would then say he wants me to accompany him so that I can do the presentation. So I would do those presentations. Of course, they would have been sanctioned by SSA. On certain occasions, he would say to me, hey, you must come to my house when I'm in Parliament in Cape Town. When I get to the house, I wouldn't know really why I'm being invited to the house, except general talk, things that are not even operational. So that was the type of cordial relationship I had with Minister Mashlobo. On occasion, when there would be something that he wants to be checked, maybe there's somebody whose phone has been taken by criminals, he would say, hey, Buti, can you assist to locate the phone? Buti is a brother. He used to call me Buti. Can you help locate the phone, because this phone is important. So I would then work with the service provider to assist us to check where the phone is. And then he would then use that information maybe to ask the police to assist whoever might have lost the phone. So I would be working with Minister Mishlobo on some of those issues.
Apart from those specific incidents, did you ever come to learn of Mr. Mishlobo's activities or conduct in relation to operations?
Yes, I came to know about them. I would cite one example, but there are many. If the commission allows me, I will go to 2 or 3. One, we visited a place called Esteras. The president was going to have to engage with the communities there because there were complaints or grievances from communities. From a community of Esteras. One of the grievances was that Esteras in Pretoria.
Esteras?
Esteras, yes, Chairperson.
Okay, all right.
So when we got there, well, the communities were complaining about the government not building them RDP houses. Since they've been there are no RDP houses. Amongst other complaints was that Esteras is infested with drug dealing, and they even knew where the houses where drugs were being sold, and the police were not doing anything about that. So I sat next to Minister Mishlobo in a marquee. He then said, "Hey, Puti, I can see that you guys, you try, but I don't seem to get a feeling that you know exactly what I want. That is why I'm now handling this operation by myself, because you are not giving me what I want." When we were talking like that, I then said to him, "Minister Mishlobo, I think you must cease to involve yourself in operations because you'll get into trouble. Ministers must confine themselves to their role, which is executive oversight. Because if you are part of us who are doing this work, and there's a challenge one day, who's going to be a referee?" He said, no, I was trained. I got a training for 3 weeks, something like that. I said, no, 3 weeks is not enough in intelligence. You need at least 10 years to begin to know basics. 10 years would just give you the basics. But if you have been around and you've been working for more than 10 years, then you begin to develop a sense of what this work is all about. And then after that, he then said, "Hey, Puti," after the meeting in Esteras, he said, "I needed to pay somebody, but talk to my head of ministerial services and give him an amount of 400,000. I said, "What is this for? Is there a record that we are paying somebody so that I can then put a claim against that asset?" The answer was that, no, this matter will be managed by my homes. We went back to HQ to do what the minister instructed we must do. I then said to Holmes, head of ministerial services, "Do you want some kind of coverage as you drop off this money to your asset?" And the answer was yes. I then asked my colleagues who are in surveillance to monitor the space where the drop-off was going to happen. Nothing happened. There was no one. I called this person, the Holmes, to say, "What happened?" Because we were there. We never saw any movement. "Where did you drop this thing?" He just laughed at me. That was one. The second one, Minister Mishlobo instructed myself and the now Provincial Commissioner, General Mawela, about an alert that there was going to be somebody who would have come from one of the neighboring states, and that person was in Zerast in a hotel. They were coming to sabotage Pelindaba. And it was a Friday afternoon. We went to see Minister Mishlobo at his residence. When we left, we then said to ourselves, because this was my chairperson at the Nat Joints, I was his co-chair, we needed to bring in the defense because we can't leave an alert without testing the veracity of the information. And the only way to test that veracity of that information would have been to operationalize the alert. Then on my side, I was then saying, okay, I will deploy surveillance. We deployed surveillance. Mawela said, I will deploy the police to conduct roadblocks in and around that space of Pelindaba. The military said we would deploy our forces inside. Now we deployed all these forces for a period of 2 weeks. There was nothing. I called Minister Mishlobo because we discussed this with General Mawela, that maybe we should see this asset that gave this alert to Minister Mishlobo. Minister Mishlobo said, no, didn't I know that what he reported has already happened at Pelindaba? I said, what would have happened? He said, what I reported that there will be a sabotage, it happened. So I said, no, but it can't be. We've been here throughout with our forces, taking them from their homes on a Friday, working for 2 weeks, deploying huge amounts of resources, putting petrol, giving them subsistence allowance because they are in operational work for nothing. Then I called Frank because Frank knew about this thing. I asked Frank, who is this asset? Because we would like to have an engagement with the asset to determine exactly where this thing is coming from. Frank said, no, this asset belongs to the minister. He then forwarded me in a rural area with kids around.
I'm sorry,
when
Stephen,
I looked at the photo.
I'm sorry, Stephen. We didn't hear you for a few seconds after you said you spoke to Frank, so we missed out something. Do you want to go back to that part?
I spoke to Frank, then Frank laughed at it. He said, no, this asset, this information came from Minister Mishlobo, it's not his, it's not one of his assets. He then forwarded me a photo of an old man who was surrounded by kids. I asked, where is this old man based? He just laughed. He said, this is the person who gave the alert to Minister Mishlobo that something was going to happen at Pelindaba. But part of what he was also saying is that I must prepare an amount of 3 million to pay this particular person. That is why we decided to launch a full-scale verification process of this alert. And the answer was zero. There was nothing, no threat whatsoever at Pelindaba. So these are 2 examples that I want the commission to know the extent to which Minister Mishlobo was so close to operational work. The third one, we were discussing
just
the allocation of
just before the third one, Stephen, just for the benefit of the public, the name of Frank you are using is a pseudonym, is that correct?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yeah, okay.
But Chair, sorry. Good morning again.
Good morning.
As you will know that I represent the witness, Mr. Mishlobo, and the other witness called Frank.
Yes.
Chair, I've listened to this evidence and I took cue from the witness to say he's using examples. And I must just place it on record that whatever examples and his testimony so far as these transactions and whatever, not contained anywhere in the document, including his affidavit.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you.
And just for the record, we are hearing it for the first time, so that we all follow. And
okay, no, that's all right.
I haven't stopped the witness. It's quite correct. This is not in the statement.
Yes,
But
that's right.
generally,
It's an elaboration.
yes, it's an elaboration of something said there. A general statement made that Minister Mishlobo spoke openly to me about operations he ran. But I just want to place on record, which I was going to do in any event, Chair, is that anything that still needs to be put to Minister Mishlobo will be subject to the written process of question and answer in due course. So he will have a full opportunity to respond.
To deal with it, yeah. No,
thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You may then proceed, Stephen.
The third one, which I think those colleagues who were working with me as general managers, meaning chief directors, because I was acting DDG at that time. There was another operation that was run by Mr. Tulane Dlomo. How we got to know about this operation is through a capacity that we have at HQ. This capacity supports operations, live operations. If we, for instance, conduct a surveillance operation, they will be able to say, this number plate is wrong because they are linked to the E90s. So they gave us the heads up that you are being investigated as a collective by Mr. Tulane Dlomo. And the name of that operation was called Project Greenleaf. In the document that was shared with us as general managers and myself and general managers, there were names of people. Our names as officials were there. The name of the president was there. The name of Mr. Paul Mashatile was there, Minister of Basic Education, amongst others. The list is endless. There were also names of generals from the army, generals in the police. We then confronted the DG Kujo. I think at the time, DG Kujo was supposed to be traveling outside the country. We requested an urgent meeting. She returned, she canceled the trip. She came back to HQ because this was more like a revolt by senior members of the SSA. We convened at her boardroom. When we convened, she called Minister Mishlobo that there is a problem here. There is an operation that is directed at my officers here, senior officers, and they are raising serious objection. Do you know about it? Minister Mishlobo said, no, I will be coming to HQ. When he came to HQ, we were already converged in a boardroom, and Ms. Kujo was there. We then asked a question, because now it was a meeting, Minister Mishlobo was present. We said to DG Kujo, DG, did you approve this type of an operation against us? DG Kujo's response was a big no. I did not approve of any operation against members, let alone senior politicians in the country and members of the army and the police. Then one member, a general manager, said, if DG is not you who approved this operation, then it could only be Minister Mishlobo, because Mr. Dlomo is junior to approve an operation that includes senior people. That is not the protocol of how we do work in the agents. Then Minister Mishlobo started losing his cool. He said to us, who do we think we are? But also targeting the person who was raising a question. I wouldn't mention the name of the member because he's still serving. Others who retired last year, other colleagues retired last year, but they know this. He then instructed us, Minister Mishlobo, that we must launch an investigation to check as to who authorized this thing, this operation called Project Greenleaf. Two general managers were appointed to investigate. The source of information was interviewed. The person who signed that form which went to that structure that I spoke about earlier on with support operation was interviewed. She denied that she got an instruction to work on this operation called Project Greenleaf, but she was basically saying, you know who I report to. I don't know who approved it, but you know who I report to. I don't report to myself. A report was written for Minister Mishlobo, and that was the end of the problem. We never got to know why we were investigated. So I'm trying to show the extent to which Minister Mishlobo was involving himself in operational work. Thank you, Advocate.
All right, if we can go back then to paragraph 27 and back to the meeting that took place at the then Minister's residence in Pretoria. Let's go back to the point at which you said two men arrived and joined yourself and Minister Mishlobo in the lounge.
Yes.
Described the two persons as you've described in paragraph 28. Did a conversation then take place?
Yes.
What was between whom did the conversation take place?
Minister
Didn't we cover
Matlobo,
that, Mr. Pretorius? What is in paragraph 28, did he not cover that already? You remember I spoke about even the
Yes, paragraph
black
28
person?
has been covered. Paragraph 29 now.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. I
Thank
thought
you.
you said 28, yeah. And then maybe, Mr. Pretorius, remember to just ask him to indicate timeframes about the Easterras visit, for example.
All right.
Just to.
The
so that-
incidents that you've reflected on and told the chair about, the 3 incidents. The first incident, when did that take place?
The Easterras one. It was just before the local government elections.
In 2016?
Or the first one, it's 2016, yes. The second one is the Pelindaba. That was around 2017 because soon after that, the former DG resigned from the agents. It was in 2017. It must have been around June 2017. Including the project relief was around 2017.
All right. When did Minister Mishlobo cease to hold office? Was sometime in 2017, wasn't it?
It was around September, I think, September, October there.
All right. If we could go then to paragraph 29, does that cover the issues, Chair?
Yes, that's covered, yeah.
Please go to paragraph 29 and deal with the
Yes, sir.
conversation that took place as you set out in that paragraph.
Yes. The meeting was about the discussion following what transpired in Parliament and our role in respect to the equipment that was used there and the challenge by SANEF. So during the discussion, Minister Mishlobo said now that you guys are here in Gauteng and the matter will be presided on or will be heard in Cape Town. How is this going to be arranged? It looks like they were saying, no, it should not be a problem. They would know how to handle it so that we get the outcome that is desirable to SSA. And desirable to SSA would have been that we must win the case, I guess, because I don't think we would get the lawyers so that we get into jail. Now, after that, my view was that maybe he instructed me that I should make plans to travel to Cape Town so that I must then deal with these issues.
Sorry, before you go on,
assisted by SIPO.
didn't
Yes.
it strike you as odd or strange that 2 judges in Gauteng would be asked to influence 2 judges in Cape Town? That seems to be a rather extraordinary proposition.
It was a bit strange but I thought, because I've never been in a court of law where I would have to deal with these issues on my own, other than when I appeared before the TRC. That was a different matter. Now, on this one, I thought because these judges are in Gauteng, maybe one of them will travel to Cape Town so that as I talk to these issues, because my engagement with the senior counsel in Cape Town was to talk about the technicalities of this device, what it can do, what it can't do, and why did we take the decision as not joints to place the device there. So I had to explain all those things. But to my surprise, when I was in Cape Town, I didn't see the faces that I had met at Minister Mishlobo. However, we won the first round in Cape Town. The verdict favored us. There was one dissenting judge. The matter was then referred to the appellate division.
Yes, we know
And then
of
we
the
lost
litigation. We
in
needn't go there for the moment.
Okay, Mr. Pretorius,
Yeah.
let's take the T adjournment.
Right.
I see it's 1:15. and then we'll come back at 11:30. We'll take the tea adjournment, Stephen. We'll come back at 11:30. We adjourn.
Thank you.
Hello, Stephen. Sorry. Stephen, are you muted? Do you want to switch on your mic? Stephen, are you there?
I'm around, sir. I'm around.
Thank you. Thank you. We're about to start. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Let's proceed.
Stephen, you were about to tell the Chair of the conversation that occurred between the two persons who joined the meeting between yourself and Minister Mishlobo. You deal with that in paragraph 29. Would you tell the Chair, please, of the detail of that conversation?
Thank you, Advocate. Maybe before I deal with that, let me just correct the timelines. What I spoke to, I think it was in 2015, late 2015, 2016, not 2017.
Which
Not
incident was
27,
that?
In terms of the three incidents that I mentioned, I was talking to. They happened in 2015, 2016, not 17.
All right, thank you. Let's go back
Thank
then
you.
to paragraph 29.
Yes, sir. What happened then, as we're discussing this issue about jamming and how they would have to help, given that the matter is not going to be in Gauteng, it will be in Cape Town. The person who was introduced to me, this other guy, the white judge, seemed a bit uneasy. Whereas the black guy in Ngwenya was saying, no, they will do it, they will use their contacts in Cape Town and all those things. But I didn't know who those contacts were, because in my mind, I thought in one or the other I would see one of these guys called judges who are going to talk to us in Cape Town. But I didn't see in either of them. I only interacted with senior counsels. There were two senior counsels in Cape Town.
Right, you have dealt with the...
And then after...
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go on, please.
Then after that, I was released. I left Mr. Mashlobo and the two gentlemen. I left. I was released.
All right. Before we go on to the next issue, may I just ask, do you know, or did you know at the time that these two persons who joined the meeting were actually judges?
Well, I knew when Mashlobo told me, when I was in the house. I didn't know beforehand, as I was driving to the house, that I was going to discuss judges.
Yes, but other than what Mr. Matlobo told you, did you of your own knowledge know them to be judges?
No, I didn't know them, because I really didn't pay attention to judges, seeing that they are not even people that ordinarily would do business with. We don't vet them. If we were vetting judges, I would have known them. But in this instance, I didn't know them.
And since that meeting, have you ever, through your recollection of having seen these two gentlemen, have you ever been able to identify them to your knowledge as judges?
I would not be able to say I've seen them. What happened is that in 2018, when Chapter was appointed acting, he called me to his office to discuss this matter. He then showed me photos of all the judges in the Republic. I was not able to say with certainty, this is the person that I think I met in the house. It's even worse with the white judge. I could not recall even his basic features. But the black judge was dark, without spectacles, shortish a bit, 1.65 height in terms of his height. That is all I could remember. In any case, I did not think at the time when I was discussing this matter regarding the matter we're seized with in Parliament, that at some point I would be required to recall these faces, because we are trained as spooks to memorize. But in this instance, I think I failed.
Is it correct then that after this meeting, you traveled to Cape Town on instructions and
Yes,
assisted in briefing counsel in relation to the aspects relating to the jamming device?
that is correct.
We don't need to deal with the SONA litigation. It's a matter of public record. But if we could go to paragraph 48, please, on page 310.
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Could you just deal with the matters that you testify to in paragraphs 48 and following?
That's correct.
Tell the
Yes,
chair about that.
in terms of that paragraph, yes, Director Langa, when he came to join the SSA, I was already acting in the position of a DDG, meaning that I was the only person that he could rely on as he was recently appointed. So for a number of things that would have required him to deal with alone, he would call me and say, I'm new here, tell me, how do I manage this one? How do I deal with this issue? He had been presented with a green form. I think the commission has had a number of witnesses talking about the green form. So he was given a green form. This green form was requiring him to sign for an amount of 12 million. He then asked me whether he must sign. I said, no, you can't sign. Ask for a document that details as to what is this thing that you are paying for. That document must say this is a project, if it's a project, or if it's an asset, this is an asset, this is what the asset is doing, and it warrants that type of a payment. But ordinarily, we don't pay such amounts of money as an organization. It was an anomaly in my view. So I said, no, be extra careful, don't do it. He then went on, I think on leave or trip, I was acting in his position. So I acted twice. This 12 million requisition came to me that I must sign. I refused.
One
I said,
second,
I'm not signing
Stephen.
this thing.
I'm sorry, Stephen. Just 1 second. Mr. Pretorius, I don't want to adjourn and talk in chambers. Can we do what they do in other jurisdictions? Can you approach?
Bench.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Stephen, just a note, please. In relation to yourself at any particular time, if you could not mention the office that you held or the position that you held, and in relation to others too, don't mention what positions they held, so that we can stick to the identity rules. We may. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
All right. So tell us about this 12 million rand.
So this 12 million, then the requisition came to me, I refused to sign because the incumbent was not around. I waited for him to come. I submitted the receipt, the requisition of 12 million. I think he succumbed to pressure. He signed for this 12 million. After signing this 12 million, he then said to me, you know, I saw this money being loaded in paper bags by Frank, and he took it to the former minister. After that, he was worried. I said to him, don't sign anything that involves such huge amounts of money.
Did you speak to Frank about this issue?
Yes, I did.
What did
But
he?
I think even Ambassador Kujo spoke to him. All he could say is that Minister Mishlobo took 4 million out of this for his project. The rest, I think Frank managed. I don't know what they did about it.
What was the purpose of the 4 million being taken from the 12 million?
I wouldn't know, advocate. I wouldn't know. But there were projects, Maibuye 1, Maibuye 2 project justice. I suppose the money could have been for those projects, because I came to know about those projects when Minister Mishlobo came to see the former director to push that we must give him the money for his projects, because he is running projects. We can't be sitting with money. At that time, Special Ops had depleted its budget. So I happen to know those projects in that context. Otherwise, I would not have known about them because of the need to know.
In paragraphs 48 and 50, you do mention the specific purpose of the delivery of the monies, but I take it you're not going to place that evidence on record now.
Yes.
Right. Is that because it's not correct, what is stated in the affidavit?
No, it's correct. It is correct. It's not because it's not correct. I thought it's a given that Frank took money, and I also spoke to Frank in my capacity that I wouldn't talk.
And the money was taken to whom?
To Mishlobo.
Right. And
he took
purpose,
the paper bags, according to Frank.
So the purpose of the money was related to you, or the purpose for which the money was delivered and taken, as stated in paragraphs 48 and 50, is what you were told. You don't know directly, is that correct?
Yes, I was told by my former boss.
All right.
When was this? When did this happen?
It must be around 2016, early 2016.
Early 2016.
That's correct, sir.
Okay, all right. Mr. Pretorius.
Yes, so for example, in paragraph 51, you say in the affidavit, Mr. Frank told me that he regularly transported cash to Minister Mishlobo and was sometimes accompanied by Dorothy. I must just say to you that Dorothy denies that.
Well, I'm not surprised, because from what I have seen from the commission is that it has become a normal to deny everything. So I would not be surprised.
All right.
That Dorothy would deny.
And do you persist in the evidence that you give in the first sentence of paragraph 51 as to what Frank told you?
Yes, I do.
And just to make sure, that sentence says Frank informed you that he had delivered the 12 million rand cash to Minister Mashlobo.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Let's deal with the next issue then, and that is the issue of the establishment of a trade union to rival AMCU. Did you attend a meeting as set out in paragraph 53 on page 311?
Yes, I did. I did attend this meeting.
Don't mention any names, please. But
No, I won't.
Pursuant to that meeting, were you ever given an instruction by Minister Mashlobo?
Yeah.
What was that instruction?
The instruction was that there is a problem and this person must be paid, because if we don't pay this person, the former president's involvement in this project would have been exposed. And the issue was that the asset had even taped that meeting. So there was proof that this meeting that involved the former president did actually take place. So the issue was that in order for this person not to go to court, he must be paid the amount of money to silence him.
Was
and
that?
Minister Mashlobo then said,
I'm sorry, in paragraph 54, the meeting apparently discussed the fact that that a particular person had been kidnapped and threatened and needed money to deal with his security.
No, sorry, I'm mixing the two. I thought we're now on the issue of the other one.
All right.
This one is true.
Let's deal with the incident. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let's deal with paragraph 54 first.
Okay. Yes. Because I was dealing with paragraph 54 instead of paragraph 53.
Yes.
But let me first say, on 53 is correct. This thing that is, the paragraph that is on 53 is correct. I paid this person 120,000 every month for his protection. But I became concerned because we are audited, seriously audited by internal audit, by the IG and the AG. I then asked, what am I going to say when the auditors are coming to me to ask about these amounts of money that I'm paying? Because I don't have any record except the details of this person and the signature where he signs for these amounts. Then I then said, can I do some checks if this person indeed, his life is under threat? He agreed. I then did what we call counter surveillance. It's not following the person, but is to check whether this person that we are giving money is being followed by others. There was nothing. This person would drive to a mall, stay in his house, no problem. So I then reported to Minister Mashlobo that I'm not going to be able to continue paying, because from what I got as a report from my colleagues who did the task, there is no problem here. So I stopped. But after having paid what Minister Mashlobo said I should do. In any case, I reported these issues to my former DG.
How long did you pay this person? If you are
I'm sure, Chairperson, I'm sure I can get those. I'm sure I can, but it was not once, it was a number of times. But I'm sure I can get those records.
Okay, all right. Mr. Victorious.
Right. You spoke of a second meeting with Minister Mishlobo, which is dealt with in paragraph 57. What happened at that meeting?
At this meeting, I think I spoke to some of the issues earlier on, that it's a project that was run by special ops, and it had gone wrong because this asset started demanding huge amounts of money. And if they were not prepared to pay him those amounts of money, he threatened to go to court and expose the operation, but also to expose the fact that at some point he was personally sitting in a meeting involving the former president to discuss this matter. So the issue was that from Mr. Mashlobo, manage this issue so that it does not go to court, pay this person. My problem with that was that, but why are executive members playing a role in operations? Because if you plan an operation, you also plan how you are going to wind it down. So this was a classical example of an operation that is poorly planned. He said, I must pay this person 6 million. I said, I can't pay this 6 million because your MPDs do not allow me to do this thing. I can't pay for that amount. I have no authority to pay such a lot of money. I refused to carry this instruction. But I was subsequently informed that this person asset was paid some monies, huge amounts of monies.
All right. You deal in paragraph 62 and following with a food security contract. I don't want to necessarily deal with that now. It's on record, but you confirm the facts set out in paragraph 62 to 67. Are they correct?
They are correct, sir.
Right. What happened in September 2016?
September 2016, we were called to the minister's office. All senior members of the agency were called there, especially the domestic side, but there were some from foreign side. We were then introduced to the new DG, Mr. Arthur Fraser, that this was going to be our new DG. Then Mr. Arthur Fraser immediately embarked on a process which he termed realignment process. That realignment process, he also said he's got a vision, or a vision was developed for 2035. Immediately when that process of coming up with a vision was being developed, organogram was also being created that talks to this vision. The first people to be victims of this vision 2035 was the director domestic branch, because the director foreign branch had already indicated that he was leaving the agents. I think the reasons are better known to him, but he was uncomfortable with the arrangement, especially following the appointment of Mr. Fraser. Then the director domestic branch was removed from his position through an organogram that you can see when it was presented that you don't have a box anymore in the domestic branch. So eventually he was forced to leave.
What happened?
He kept on coming to work.
What happened in
He
regard
kept
to
on
yourself?
coming to work. To who?
To you.
To who? To me, I will come to that.
All right.
I want to give a picture so that the commission must see what really happened there. Then the director is moved. His office is flooded. One day he gets to his office, the whole office is flooded with water. He cannot come in. He then calls me to say, hey man, come and see. My office is flooded with water. The whole carpet is soaked. We then check whether maybe there's a problem with the bathroom, because their offices have bathrooms. There was no sign of any leakage of water from the bathroom. So clearly somebody came to put water into his office. Then he said to me, it means I'm no longer wanted here. I must work from home. That was the last time he set his foot at HQ. Following that, the next person that was to be removed was myself. After worked in that position of acting for 2.5 years. This happens within a period of a week. The second week, all these things are happening that I'm just explaining. Then, as this project begins to take shape, all general managers are told that he's going to work with those general managers who are fit for purpose. But it does not explain what the purpose is. There is no study that is conducted to say, if you fail to do the following, you are not fit for this particular purpose. He then appoints junior members who are 3 levels below our levels to occupy our offices. In my case, I was left even without an office. I had to come to HQ for a period of 2.5 years without being given any work, being called or telephoned. Others were told that there will be advisors, and that position does not exist in the agency. It never existed. It only existed in the offices of the ministers, and that position of advisors is regulated by ministerial directives. In my case, I questioned that, are you changing my conditions of service? Because I don't know what you are talking about. I've been here since '95. We never had this thing. So I was then left in the cold for 2 years, whilst getting my salary, getting a bonus, my cell phone was fully paid for, everything that you can think of, which comes as perks. And this applied to all other GMs, general managers, during Mr. Fraser's reign. This project that he had was never even approved by JSCI, and yet it was implemented. And whilst it was implemented, certain DDGs were appointed under the auspices of this project, which was not sanctioned by JSCI. We kept on asking, where is the approval of this thing that is being implemented? There was nothing. Thank you, Advocate.
Yes. What happened in April 2018?
In April 2018, Mr. Fraser then gets moved to correctional services. And then, I think it was in March when we got to know that he was being moved. Then I was called to come back, but not to domestic branch, to go to foreign side by.
Well, don't mention the...
No. Initially, I was called by DDG foreign branch to come and help her because she was not coping. This Vision 2035 had killed foreign branch from being a branch into a chief directorate without proper funding. So they were not coping because the world did not shrink when the foreign branch was shrunk. They had to contend with the world as we know it, with limited capacity. So I was called to come back. I then asked the DDG that if you call me to come and work, where is the report that says now I'm fit for purpose? Because I'm still waiting for the report that I'm not fit for purpose. Then when Mr. Jafta was appointed, I was also called back. I came back this time because Mr. Jafta had nothing to do with the fitness for purpose. He then asked me to go and work in foreign branch to assist because there were challenges. I worked there up until I was brought back to the domestic site again.
Thank you. Former Minister Matlobo is aware of the evidence that you have given by way of notice and otherwise, and it's been put to him in his own evidence. And he used the term in respect of you, a peddler, an information peddler. What is your response?
Thank you, Advocate. Maybe let me explain or give a definition of what we understand as peddlers or a peddler or peddling. A peddler is somebody who purposefully gives wrong information about something. Let me make an example. At some point, there was an information that SSA or NIA then had to deal with. The information was coming from some person in Mpumalanga who said the current president and Mr. Tokyo Sehwal were planning, I think even Matthew Posa, were planning a coup against the administration of President Mbeki. We worked on that only to find out there is nothing like that. But that information can only be confirmed by him alone. No other source could confirm that information. So a peddler is somebody who cooks information, but the objective is to get money, but also to sow confusion. A peddler would not be in the agency as I know it, as a person who's been working in this organization since 95. Even in my previous years as a member of the intelligence of the ANC, we knew peddlers to be people who are outside our ranks, who would come to us to sow confusion. That is how I understand the definition of a peddler. But if Minister Mishlobo was saying members of the agency can at times be surrounded by peddlers, maybe that would make sense. But in my case, I would not be surrounded by peddlers because the position I occupy in the organization does not allow me to handle sources. I only deal with the directing of the work that needs to be done at the time when I was doing operational work. That is the understanding I have. So to call me a peddler would be something that is shunned upon in the profession. And a peddler, we classify them, work on them, and we blacklist them. We don't want to do anything with peddlers. In fact, they are a nightmare to any intelligence officer because you then follow the shadows based on what they give you as alert. I think I alluded to something earlier on about Pelindab. That was a peddler who gave us that information because we could not confirm it. But there is no peddler inside the organization. There is nothing like that. Thank you.
Stephen, the accusation that you are a peddler was based, amongst other things, on Mr. Mishlobo's denial of the meeting that took place between the two persons whom he referred to as judges and yourself at the former minister's home. As I understand his version, you made the whole thing up. What is your response to that?
I would not lie about the minister. And in my history of working in this environment, firstly in the movement, I never was a liar. In the history of the intelligence since 95, I worked in various capacities. There has never been an accusation directed at me that I'm a liar. I have briefed senior people in the country, including presidents, give them briefings. I have briefed Parliament, even with the current minister, on several occasions. Why would I target Minister Mishlobo? Only on this one of the judges. And he confirms the other issues in terms of these projects that he instructed me to pay. He does not have a problem with that. I'm not a peddler when I talk about it. I only become a peddler when I talk about the judges. Well, my guess will be as good as the guess of those members of the public who are watching the proceedings. Thank you.
It was somewhat difficult to follow the answers to questions put to former Minister Mishlobo. in relation to why you would invent in its totality the story about the persons whom he said were judges. But as I understand it, in summary, he suggested that you might be part of a faction within state security that sought to create problems or to discredit him and others. What is your response to that?
I know that is plausible enough for a person of Minister Mashlobo's caliber to say I'm a faction. I am not a card-carrying member of any political organization. Yes, in the past I used to be a member of the ANC. But when we amalgamated in '95, Minister Nhlanhla said he does not think it's a good idea that we must be card-carrying members because we are not going to be impartial. So from then on, I never took part in any political work of the ANC. So why would I be a faction? Because factions would only exist in a political organization. In the agents, there are a lot of gossipers. As new ministers get appointed, those people who gossip and who seek to be promoted, because in a situation that we have where, especially during Minister Mashlobo's time, there was no one who was appointed to a permanent position. Even if you were appointed, when he came, you were told that you are now acting in your own substantive position. So that situation created a state of flux where people were not sure, and it then breeds this behavior where people would then go and drink tea about people's name. In my case, I am not a member of any faction. Yes, there are a lot of issues in the agency, a moral issue, appointments that are not done correctly in some instances without adhering to the policies, and that breeds contempt amongst members. But that does not make one to be a faction. And if you raise issues that are correct and you are raising them on the basis of policies and principles and regulations, then you are classified as a faction. Maybe that is what he meant, but I'm not a faction. Thank you.
He also referred, that is former Minister Matlobo, also referred to an investigation when pressed in questions about you being known to him to be a peddler and being asked, well, what was done about it? Are you aware of any investigation that took place within the SSA in regard to whether you reported false information?
If I knew, I would have said it to the commission. I've said since 1995, I've worked in various capacities in the agency, domestic, foreign, even abroad. I've never been investigated. Even now, as I'm sitting here, I've never been investigated. Nothing. No, to be told that, hey, there is a suspicion about you that you have done the following thing. Never. I was hearing it for the first time yesterday on TV.
So I understand your evidence. You have never been warned about peddling false information. You are not aware of any investigation conducted in relation to the peddling of false information, and I suppose it follows that no inquiry ever has taken place in that regard.
Nothing at all. Nothing. Not even under Mr. Fraser, nothing.
Bear with me a moment, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for availing yourself. You are now excused.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Stephen.
Chairperson, may I say something, if I'm allowed?
Yes.
Chairperson, I would want the Commission to seriously, as they conclude this process, that this agency can only work if the President exercises his prerogative to take political control of the agency. Because in my 26 years of being part of this agency,
Yes.
ministers who get appointed, they come with their political agenda and they cause a lot of problems in the agency. And I don't think that is helpful for the taxpayers who are paying us the salaries to do nothing to protect them as well as the Constitution. So my view and my appeal is that maybe we must not have a minister for some time until all our problems are sorted. But two, the high-level panel recommendations have never been implemented. This is the third year, I guess, and nothing has moved in that regard. And if there is a process, that process does not involve members or senior members of the organization, if it exists somehow.
Yes.
So those things, I think, they need to be done to ensure that we are back to our glory days. Thank you,
Yes.
Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I've heard you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And then Mr. Pretorius.
Sorry, before my learned colleague proceeds.
Yes.
Chair, if you have obviously the document or the affidavit deposed by this witness, and we have agreed that there was some elaboration.
Yes.
Taking cue of that, there were considerations last night
Yeah.
that we will be finished with questions from the chair. I would want to think that will also form part of this questionnaire that will be sent to us, this elaboration by this witness.
Yes, the transcript, certainly the parts that were constituted or elaboration should be given, and Mr. Pretorius will take care of that. Maybe it would be more than that part, but that would be taken care of.
Thank you, Chair.
Two things will be done, Chair. The transcript of these proceedings will be made available
Yeah.
to all parties implicated by additional evidence
Yeah.
or elaborating evidence. And secondly, questions will, in addition to that, be put.
Yeah.
But Minister Mishlobo certainly, Deputy Minister Mishlobo certainly will be invited to make whatever comment he wishes, quite apart from the questions that have been
Yes.
asked.
Noted. Thank you, Chair. Thank you to my
Thank
colleague.
you. Thank you.
Chair, just to set up, may we take a 5-minute adjournment, please?
Okay, we'll adjourn for 5 minutes. Okay.
Frank, are you present? Can you hear us?
Very good afternoon, I'm present. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Frank.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Thank you once again for availing yourself to assist the commission. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much, Professor.
As the oath was administered to you earlier this morning, so Mr. Pretorius can continue.
Right, Frank,
Thank you.
before you should be a file containing various documents, including documents behind the folder YY16. You have that in front of you.
Let me just confirm that. YY16, yes, I do.
Chair, there are a number of documents that I will ask be admitted, including an affidavit, which we will deal with now. But if you could go, Frank, to page 1146.1, towards the end of that divider.
Did we forget to admit Stephen's affidavit?
Yeah, going to do that now.
Yeah, okay.
So
116.
are you at YY16
I'm trying to
and
get
at
there.
page 1146.1?
Hold on for me, sir. You are saying, yes, 1116
No,
and page
1146. 1146.
1146. Okay, hold on. We're getting there just now. Definitely, I'm there, sir.
1146.1, is that your affidavit? It's been identified by your
1146.
attorney already.
Yes, it is.
Right, if you would go to page 1146.34.
46, 1146.
0.34.
24, no?
You got that?
Hold on, no, I'm getting there. 46.34, definitely. Yes,
That signature has been redacted, but do you recall signing this affidavit?
I recall definitely.
And as far as you're concerned, and to the best of your knowledge, are the contents of this affidavit true and correct?
Yes, sir.
Chair, may that then be admitted as Exhibit YY 16.1?
The affidavit of Frank, which starts at page 1146.1, will be admitted and marked as Exhibit YY. What's the number?
16.1.
16.1. Yeah. Mr. Pretorius, I don't want to forget this.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Frank, is it correct, and I'm now going to page 836 of Exhibit YY16, that on the 19th of January, a request
Hold
for...
on, sir. Hold on. You are saying why?
Page 836. I'm only going to refer now to the page numbers in the top left-hand column, the black page numbers.
Okay, page.
Top left-hand corner, page 836.
800, in the same affidavit.
Yeah, no, not the affidavit.
Oh, okay, okay.
Page
Page 800,
and 36.
836. Hold on for me quickly. 836. Ten 36, no? Yes,
On the 19th of January 2021,
yes,
the Commission sent to you a request for an affidavit. Correct.
yes,
And that was followed up by a letter dated the 9th of February 2021 on page 841.
841. Yes, sir, I recognize that.
And Messrs. Jabulani Lavuno and Advocate Sam Mgiba, were they your representatives at the time, 9th February 2021?
Yes, yes.
Contents of those letters are self-explanatory, and I don't want to deal with them in any detail. Is it correct that on the 6th of November 2019, an interview was conducted internally within SSA as part of the visa investigation?
Is it Veza?
VASA.
Are you making reference to any? Are you making reference to any page?
Yes, page 845.
845. Yes, sir.
That is a transcript that was provided to us by the SSA, and you confirm that you were indeed interviewed on that date.
And I confirm that I have been interviewed on that day. However, I also want to place it on record that this transcript before me, I saw it for the first time a year after when served to me by the commission. So it was never shared to me as an affected party by the investigators. Only to say, or suffice to say, I see this transcript for the first time as provided by the commission.
Yes. All I want to put you at this stage is the fact that you were interviewed. I'll put passages to you, and you can comment on whether those passages accord with your own memory of what happened in that investigation. So you'll have a chance to comment. But when you say it wasn't shared with you by the investigators, you're referring to the SSA investigators, is that correct?
Yes, 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 yes.
Right. If you could go to page 861, please.
Yes, sir.
As part of the project being referred to there, to your knowledge, who were the persons who received protection under the rubric of the project there being discussed? First of all, what project was discussed at page 861? And then who were the persons being protected?
Can you repeat that for me, sir?
If you look at page 861,
Yes,
during the course of the interview, it appears from this transcript that you were being asked questions about a particular project.
okay,
See that?
yes.
Two-thirds down the
Yes, I
road,
see.
or down the page rather, two-thirds down the page, a project is mentioned. What project is that?
Project Construção.
All right, Project Construção. Now, as part of Project Construção, who received VIP protection?
In reference to this page, were Dudumieni and Colin Maida.
At the time, who was Colin Mayene? What office did he hold?
He was the president of the ANC Youth League.
Youth League.
Yes.
And was there a third person who received protection?
Still in this stage? Yes.
Who was that?
And the deputy president of the then deputy president Desmond Moela.
Of the ANC Youth League?
Yes.
Right. And you say just above the passage where you mention Project Construção, I will tell you why I know for sure, because the protection of these people fell squarely on projects I was running. Is that a correct statement?
Can you read where does that follow?
All right. It's 2/3 down the page.
Okay, yes, I can
861.
see that. I can see that.
Next to the word in red, Frank,
Yes,
it reads,
yes, I see that. I
Is
can
that
confirm.
Is that correct?
It's correct. Correct.
Right. And then on page 860, you refer to co-workers, or co-workers are referred to on the transcript. Do you see that?
I'm trying to look at it specifically where. Yes, sir.
Were co-workers employed or appointed to conduct operations such as Project Contrasau?
Can I clarify?
Yes,
I
please.
think there is a misconstrued idea here. Co-workers did not fall under squarely Project Construção. Co-workers was another. It was a team of other employed operatives within CDSO. It did not fall within my portfolio.
Frank, do you have a mask on?
Yes, I do.
Won't you take it off, please, and make sure that nobody is near you, so that I'm having difficulty in hearing your words.
Okay.
Thank you. Explain who were co-workers.
Co-workers was a set of other employees attached to CDS, to the Chief Directorate, Special Operations, but didn't fall within my area of work. So that part of the transcript, it's not correct.
Well, are you saying you didn't say that part of the transcript?
Yes, it might have been misunderstood, the co-worker specific part of it.
Well, next to the words Frank, 1/3 down the way, page 860, it says, now I like that part. One of the things I did was primarily, one, we had a letter that we wrote to DG Kujo at that time to say, look, based on the fact that we are working in this environment, with these people, we request a waiver of advertisement and absorption of these people so that they can be taken for necessary training within the environment, which is our environment here, although most of them would come from a foreign country. Is that incorrect?
Let me have a look at it quickly. I'm not sure the construction of the word as of the paragraph as it ends. They come from a foreign country. I'm not sure what it was meant there, But I remember that part of the discussion.
Right. Did you say that, apart from the fact that they came from a foreign country?
Yes, we had a discussion around that.
Right. And further down that page, mention is made of the fact that at least some of these co-workers were relatives of people involved in SSA. You see that?
Where is that, sir? Can you direct me, please?
Well, you say 2/3 down the page of page 860. Let's not say these people, most of these people were relatives of Tulani. I just want to say it bluntly. They were relatives of Tulani, you were asked? Frank, yes. Did you say that?
No, it was
No.
misconstrued here.
But what was
Yes.
misconstrued? It's just a
Okay,
recording of what
I
was said. No one is construing
Yes.
anything. It's just a recording of what was said. So all that I think that I'm asking you is, did you say this or didn't you say this?
No, I did not say. Let me leave it at that.
So someone must have inserted this in this transcript. Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm not suggesting that. I was actually suggesting the wording there. It might have been tempered as far as my recollection is concerned.
Would it make a difference, Frank, if the position is that in the conversation, you specified the country from where you believed they came, and what is confusing you now is that in the place of the name of the country, it's simply written a foreign country. Is that what may be confusing?
No.
It's not that.
Not at all, Chair. What I'm trying to say, if you say they came from a foreign country, the insinuation was that these were not South African citizens.
Yes.
The discussion there was making reference to say they were trained outside in foreign countries. That was the discussion, as far as I can recall.
Is it possible that what you said was that most of the people were trained from a foreign country, and maybe whoever transcribed thought you were saying they came
Yes.
from a foreign country?
Yes,
Is it possible that?
exactly that.
Yeah,
Exactly, Chairperson.
you may have said
that's
they
my
were
insinuation.
trained. You may have said they were
Yes.
trained from a foreign country, not that they were coming
Yes, so
from.
there's
a
an
foreign country.
omission.
Okay.
So there's an omission there.
Yes. Okay.
But further down the page, the statement appears on that page, and it reads, let's not say these people, most of these people were relatives of Tulani. I just want to say it bluntly. You asked, according to the transcript at least, they were relatives of Tulani. Frank, yes. I just have difficulty in understanding how a statement could be misconstrued in this regard. It seems pretty clear, but perhaps you can explain. Perhaps you didn't say it at all and someone else inserted this surreptitiously, or perhaps it's an incorrect recordal of what you did say.
In the same context that I was trying to correct that paragraph with the foreign country, I want to make reference even to this paragraph there. The discussion was to say there were also relatives of Tulani.
All right. Who were employed as co-workers.
Yes, there were. So, most, I don't know, but I said there were.
All right.
And if most were relatives of Tulani, would that indicate in any way whether they were South Africans or people from another country, or would it not?
Chairperson, can you repeat yourself?
If most were relatives of, I think he is just referred to as Tulani, huh?
Yes.
If most were relatives of Tulani, would that indicate whether those who were relatives of Tulani were South Africans or were from another country?
I'm not sure, Chairperson, but
You are not
to
sure?
me, it would be, it would, no, let me say, I'm not sure what does that mean, but to me, it would be misleading information.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
If we could go to page 892, please.
Yes, sir.
And I want to just ask you about what appears on this page, the bottom 1/3 of the page. It is recorded here, at least, that you were asked, you were chosen again to do WAVE. That's W-A-V-E. You are recorded as having said what WAVE? The answer is the project, to run Project WAVE. And you recorded as having said, no, I just wrote it, I wrote it. And then you are asked, who wrote the operational plan? The answer is, I wrote it, ma'am. The question is why? And then the answer is, I was asked to do so. What was Project WAVE? Well, firstly, did this exchange take place to the best of your recollection?
I may not remember the exact wording, but I remember it could have fallen amongst the things that we had discussed in that particular interview.
Right. Did you write the operational plan for Project WAVE?
Let me put it clearly. That's why I'm saying some of the words. I just put it in paper. The conceptualizing of it, it was as per the estimates at the time, and in a brief discussion, which I was also present with other members, was given to me, and then I was asked to put the concept into pen and paper.
What was the purpose of Project WAVE?
I may not be able to give the exact detail of the project, but it was one of the counter-intelligence measures that were meant to be put in place, specifically or initially to assist in counter-intelligence operations outside the borders of the country.
All right. There was an aspect of the project that we will deal with later.
Yes.
So we don't need to take that any further for the present. You could go, please, to, but bear with me, Chair, because I'm trying to cut down, given time constraints.
Yeah, that's fine. Maybe during lunch, you could check with Mr. Maybeck. His evening witness, from what I recall, didn't appear to me to be somebody who would take very long. And therefore, maybe the 3 o'clock cutoff point might not be strictly adhered to for your purposes.
I'll speak to him at the long adjournment.
Yeah.
If you could go to page 898, please. Again, 2/3 down the page. Page 898.
Yes, sir, I'm there.
It says, next to the word Frank, there were no people at that time at WAVE. The only time I started paying WAVE, ma'am, It's when this team came in to be trained by media. I think they were paid for about 5 months, if I'm not mistaken, for the entire duration. At one point, you see it's a pity. At one point, I know there was a problem where Tulani wanted 20 million on wave to be paid. And then later on, a few lines down, Frank, I don't know what it is, but all I know, there was money at one point and Tulani wanted 20 million. We were
That's 20
stopping at
million
nothing.
rand, That's 20 million rand.
20 million rand, yes. He was stopping at nothing that Lily must make it available because I was close to. Then that sentence ends there. But what I wanted to ask you was this matter discussed during this interview?
There was a discussion of this matter, yes.
Do you know what the purpose of the request for 20 million rand in relation to the execution of Project Wave was? Paul?
Chairperson, can I put it on record that at that particular time or at that particular phase of the project, I was involved with Wave, so I would not know.
Page 901.
Yes.
2/3 down the page. See that? Next to the word Frank. Ma'am, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Really, I don't know. These are instructions that come. This is what has to be done, do that. Everyone knows that we are drawing this money. Even the money that goes to the minister, for example, was going cash. You are asked, why was it going to the minister? Frank, I don't know. You're asked, who was giving an instruction that money had to be given to the minister? You answer, or Frank answers, it was him and Tulani. Remember, there were 2 projects that were running from the minister's office. Question, which are? Frank, it's not projects, it was operations. One of them, it was lock, yes? And then there's a discussion about lock. Did this discussion take place?
I could say it would have taken place. However, I need to put into context the miscrude writing that it says the minister, and I had no given stage in my operation time of operation inspection delivered money to the minister. I think the reference was made to the ministry. I think I need to put that in context.
Yes. Well, to your knowledge, what is the difference between the minister and the ministry?
The minister could be the person himself. The ministry could be the office in which we were dealing with officials in that office.
Right. Did you, as
Perhaps
part...
at the stage, perhaps at the later, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Perhaps at the later stage, to clarify that interaction with that office.
Yes. We'll deal with that later when we get to your affidavit, Frank.
Yes.
But for the moment, do I understand your evidence to be that you told the investigators in the VESA investigation that money was being taken to the ministry? Is that correct?
Ministry, yes. That's correct, sir.
Is that a correct statement of fact? You're obviously telling them the truth.
I'm telling them the truth. Correct, sir.
Is it correct then that money for the execution of SSA projects was, according to your evidence, taken to the ministry?
Yes, yes, sir.
Was that something that you had personal knowledge of, or was it something that you had heard about?
I'm saying, in as far as I am concerned, the monies that I was taking to the ministry was delivered to official. I have never taken money personally to Minister Mishlobo. I'm talking in relation to me, myself.
Or you were talking about occasions when you personally had taken money to the ministry. That's what you were talking about.
Correct, Chairperson.
Okay,
Correct,
all right.
Chairperson.
Okay.
On page 902, in the third line, you say, no, it was not always me, ma'am. Or it is recorded that you said, no, it is not always me, ma'am, so I would deliver this money to the office. Is that the office
Yes,
of the ministry?
correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Now, when you delivered money to the office or to the ministry, to whom did you deliver the money?
To the officials referred to in my affidavit, JNV.
Is that J-A-Y?
No, I'm not sure how is it referred to in these documents.
Well,
Remember, you give pseudonyms.
What officials, what office did they hold?
In the minute.
Hang on one second.
For the
Hang on one
purpose,
second.
did you say?
Hang on one second,
Yes.
Frank.
Yes.
The names
Yes.
you were using for the record, when you said J, that's a pseudonym, is that right?
Yes, correct, Chairperson.
Okay, all right. Mr. Pretorius,
Yes,
you may have thought about, I was just asking about the positions they held, but they might not be operatives.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to.
Yes, yeah, okay.
Were these persons members of the SSA or operatives?
Yes, one of those was a member, yes, because it's no longer, was a member of SSA and a standing operative, yes.
In the office of the ministry?
Yes, yes.
And the other one?
Was an official in the office.
Just an employee at the office of the ministry, is that correct? Not an SSA member or operative?
Yeah.
What was his
He
name?
was an SSA member.
I'm sorry?
I may not be able to disclose that, but he was a member of SSA, but not an operative.
All right. Is that the second person?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Frank, just to clarify the distinction,
Yes.
when reference is made to a member of the SSA, is that different from an employee or official of the SSA?
Chairperson, in this context, yes, because we are making reference to operations. So try to distinguish here was that one had capacity to be involved.
If you are an employee of the SSA who is also authorized or whose duties include being involved in operations, you would be a member of the SSA. But if you are an employee of SSA whose duties do not include being involved in operations, then you'd just be an employee or official, but you are not a member. Is that right?
No, it's not right, Chairperson.
Oh, well, what is right? Just explain it to me.
What is right in terms of making reference to these particular persons? I'm trying to distinguish in relation to capacity of what could be one with the capacity to or can be participating in operation, one who could not be able to, however, being a member. Because any person that is an employee and is issued with an appointment number is therefore a member.
Or to be a member, you have to be issued with a specific number.
An appointment number.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So those who have not been issued with such a number would then be just ordinary employees or officials.
Of which I don't know any of such person. Because any person within that establishment is a member, regardless of his particular position or tasking.
Oh, okay.
So you'd not be in that if you're not a member.
You would not be at SSA unless you are a member.
Yes, whether at the ministry or headquarters, unless you're a member.
Even if you are, no matter what your position is, you would be a member.
Within those two establishments I'm referring to.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Because there could be people who were assets of the agents who are not members. That is something else outside those two establishments I'm making reference to.
Okay, all right. Mr. Pretorius?
Yes.
I ask you to go to page 905, please.
Yes, sir.
The first paragraph on that page, line 3, reads as follows.
Yes.
So when that happened, ma'am, that's how the ministry took over the project. It went out of my hand. I know nothing about it. A subject was paid from the minister's office. I would draw the money under ops lock, deliver the money to them at the ministry. They would sign for it either two pseudonyms, Vukani or J. He would sign for the money. They would go and deliver and bring back the certificate. They would take the money and I would take the certificate. I would settle like that. There was another project, for example, Ops Justice. There was money being drawn. That money started as 1.3 million up to 21.8 million. I used to draw that money. Did that discussion take place?
Chairperson, that discussion took place. However, I need to put certain things into context because I think the scriber omitted that context part. This taking over by the ministry was by way of saying, after facing some challenges in this operation, there was an intervention by the office of the minister in which the minister himself then tasked these two officials to see in coordination with operatives how best can this be dealt with. And one of the agreed propositions with the officials was that the withdrawal of this money needs to be conferred by them in that office, delivered to them. They will then arrange a mode in which it can be delivered to the subject. And upon that, upon return from it, will then receive the certificate with the signature of the subject, which we had in our disposal as an example. So we knew exactly how the subject would sign upon receiving this money. And I would then collect that certificate for settling the TA. But I want also to correct something here, Chairperson.
Yes.
Are we there?
Yes.
Yes. It talks here about money that started at 1.3 for Ops Justice. and that money went up to 21 million. That's an incorrect affirmation of the statement.
Yes.
The operation, when it started, it was allocated 1.3. And then at a later stage, the operation was allocated 1.8 million to be dispersed for the operation. So that 1.8, it's a wrong information supplied.
What is the correct figure?
1.3 to 1.8,
Oh, okay.
not 21. I don't know anything about 21 million. I've never drawn reference of me ever drawing that 21 million.
Yeah, so apart from the figures and the context, and I'll come to the context now, did this discussion take place as recorded here?
Definitely. Not as recorded, but it did take.
Let's go back then to page 904. You do, in fairness, deal with the context there.
9.4 where?
In the same bundle?
Yes, but I'm saying what part of that 904?
He will tell you just now.
Oh, okay.
904. 2/3 down
Yes,
the page.
Okay.
You're asked, do you think, and the name there is the subject of Operation Lock, has a relationship with the former President Zuma?
Hold on. Where are we?
2/3 down the page, or 3/4 down the page, 904.
Okay. Okay, yes.
You there? Frank says, he didn't have, but he had. Did they meet? In answer to the question, do you think the subject has a relationship with the former President Zuma? I think they met, or because one thing that I intervened was him at one point wanting to go meet the president with Tondo, and I said, but where is this man going to meet the president? Even with my discussion with the president, I said, but Baba, he only said to me, now that I'm telling you what the president said to me, he said that this man at one point was helpful to him, especially when he was released. He helped him with some things. But when I went to ask him, but why do we have a relationship with this particular person? But why are we allowing? And the question is, the president saw his value. That's the former president. Frank, at that time, he said he had a point. That's why they were working. Then I said in my intervention, I've got that report, ma'am. I even said in my intervention, this is a problem that we're sitting with. We can no longer, the minister, for example, has promised this guy 3 million. Did this discussion take place?
Sir, can I confirm that we had a discussion of that nature? However, the construction of that paragraph going to the end, it has been taken out of context. Perhaps I need to explain one thing, sir. My involvement with this project or with this operation was merely because there were challenges, which then the minister requests me to conduct an investigation together with some officials from the Department of Correctional Services and a report back with my findings. So this issue discussed here, it refers to that investigation in which, according to these officials, they had indicated the reason why the subject was placed under the care of SSA Special Ops, it was because he was helpful in conducting or revealing some information which was not revealed even through the TRC or any other form, for which did help the president in some decisions that he had to make. And that they themselves, see the discussion with the president in that matter, it's not my discussion with the president. It's a discussion which, according to the officials of the correctional service, in their understanding, that was the reason why the subject was placed under our care. So I wanted to clear that. And second, even that promise of that, it was not in accordance to words told to me by the minister. It's in accordance to information of the officials when I interacted with them. So I could not, I don't have the proof of that particular promise.
All right. So
I think we should take lunch. I think it's...
I'm sorry, I missed that, Chair.
It's about 7 minutes past 1. We'll take the lunch break and resume at 2:10. We adjourn.